Ken is a sought after CMMC Cybersecurity Model certification from the Department of Defense. So I'm hoping he'll tell us what that is. He's also a SCADA, which is Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Control Systems. But I did ask Ken to kind of address us as more as sole proprietors and solopreneurs and our needs, not so much the enterprise buzzwords and things like that. So, yeah, Ken, thank you for presenting it.
Well, thanks a lot. So let me take a few seconds and clear some things up. The SCADA is, if you ever watched the like the moon launch in that room with all those people, that's the SCADA control room. So I'm actually helping Cleveland Public Power to build out their SCADA control room to try and keep the power grid up and running. Every utility has at least one, and so that's one of my current projects. But my goal today is to not talk about SCADA, but to talk about what really matters to you guys. And what really matters is somebody going to stop me from being able to give my work to somebody and wipe out all of my stuff that I've done for the last 5 years, which I have stories that I'll tell of that actually happening. So I'm going to talk about small business cybersecurity, things you can do, places you can do if you do get attacked, ways to make sure you don't get attacked or at least minimize. Nothing is guaranteed to protect you. I tell everybody this, but you do want to minimize your risk. That's the goal, is to minimize the risk. Okay. Now it's not going to work. There we go. So I want to start. How many of you heard about Kaseya? So Kaseya is what managed service provider companies, kind of like mine, but different, uses to watch all of your computers. Somebody hacked Kaseya and then used the fact that they were taking care of thousands of computers to then, were you one of the people?
I work for a healthcare company here in Cleveland. I'm the director of IT, and we use Kaseya in-house. And that Friday afternoon before a long weekend, they started shouting out to anybody that had it to shut down their server.
Mm-hmm.
And we did, and as a company, I feel like Kaseya did a lot of things right. They were kind of with us, so to speak, kept us informed, and we followed their protocol. So what that meant for us as a business is we use our Kaseya tool to monitor our servers, almost like, help me out here, your SCADA control room. It's really a backbone of that. So, here we are on a Friday afternoon before a long weekend, and we are, we got our server offline. We're in a hybrid work model right now, many remote people. And the first thing that we did is we said, okay, we still have servers we have to monitor, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We are going to have eyes on screens and making sure our CRM system. My wife is telling me to stop talking.
No, this is great. Just keep talking.
No,
this is real.
We followed, it was 4th of July weekend. We followed the protocol. They gave us tools so we had to isolate our server. And, just to be blunt, it means cables being unplugged. And so in order to use some of the diagnostic tools that they gave us, they were going on a thumb drive and being walked over. And I told Jeremy, my IT guy, I said, get a bucket of thumb drives, and those are all one way. And you put them in like a needle box when we're done. We're not risking bringing any of this stuff over.
Yeah.
We followed their protocol. I had a lot of help from my staff in that, okay, yeah, you're an app dev person, but today you're not, and for the coming week. So, when you're on that infrastructure side, well, not so much the infrastructure, but if you work in an IT department, be prepared to like help people monitor and man help desk and things like that. And then, they issued they issued a detection tool, they issued patches, and, you know, they were keeping us in the loop. And one of the things that I'll never forget is we're getting these emails from them saying that there's all sorts of other mean people out there using this to their advantage and sending out all sorts of fish emails with Kaseya on it. And so we get this communication and it said, none of the emails will have any hyperlinks in them. And they were spelling out these URLs so that like your email client wouldn't try to overthink you and build a link out of it. We were like, you know, Kaseya space the word DOT space the word COM. It was as close as I ever want to get to what I know the way these things work is they encrypt your stuff. They encrypt your all your intellectual property, and they want to get paid. My wife is telling me to stop talking. But
presentation, you got it all my
she does it a lot. She does it a lot. Our lessons learned is that, you know, this is, you know, you talk about risk mitigation and things like this. Ransomware and cybersecurity has moved to the very top of my list. Okay. I have carte blanche to spend whatever I need to spend on this exact stuff. You know, and there it is. And, you know, it's real. And yeah, it's coming from that guy on the right. That's my opinion. And there it is. It's coming out of some offshore type thing. So when you're looking at things you can do to mitigate, yeah, there's a lot of nice stuff out there, but I think the biggest thing, and maybe you agree with me or not, there's still a lot of human aspects of this, whether it's a fish attack, you know, they're getting real sneaky. So yeah, there it is. But just, you know, back your stuff up. What the last thing I'll say here is, as Kaseya, you know, you talked about how Kaseya is used by a lot of managed service providers. Well, you know, we're kind of our own managed service provider, and the detection tool, we did not get hit at all. We got our stuff offline, but their numbers are very skewed because I don't think we have an accurate number yet. So they had like less than 100 customers, managed service providers, get hit by this ransomware, but it's that next layer behind them. Some of these MSPs had thousands of servers in their network, in their support structure. So it probably was a lot bigger. They did get the FBI involved. They did get Homeland Security involved. So it was even though I think it was one of their managed service providers, they kind of dropped the ball themselves, quite frankly. Because they had realized that it was their tech that facilitated this, and they were right there. And there it is. I'm just happy that these guys were proactive with all this stuff, because a lot of these ransomware attacks, like, you come to work one day and it's all gone. Everything's encrypted. You get this nasty thing about donating Bitcoins to whomever. Fourth time's a charm. I have to shut up. Yeah, this is it's all real. It's very, very real.
Well, usually at this point, I explain what happened to my company and talking about a plan, but he pretty much did that. So even for you who are only a one-person type company, have a plan for what you'll do, because the truth is this: if you get a ransomware attack and then it's an email and you accidentally send it out, or you get email attacked and you send it out, you gotta make sure you let all of your customers know, because people are understanding that bad things happen.
Yeah.
I tell a story about my wife. Right before we implemented two-factor authentication, literally the day before, we just finished testing it about 4 years ago. She ended up getting her email hacked because she had uninstalled Outlook, went to install it, but she went to a different site than office.com, and what she installed was not Outlook.
But it had a logo, that looked just like
Like
it.
it, yes. So within 15 minutes, we had stopped it and found out what happened. She had sent out 4,000 emails in that 15 minutes.
Oh.
So we contacted every customer and explained what happened. And, you know, we had our plan and we followed it. So make sure, even if it's a simple plan, even if I know who all my customers are, and if I see that I got hacked, I'm gonna let everybody know. Because unfortunately, you have Facebook, you have LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have Instagram. You wanna make sure you let people know if you get hacked on any of those. And I'll be honest, I felt really stupid, because like, oh my gosh, we're a cybersecurity company, we got hacked, what's everybody gonna think if I go out and tell people? Well, what people really thought was, thank you for telling us. I expected them to say, you're an idiot, never talk to me again, went the other way. And so it's important to remember, everybody gets hacked. When we talk about the companies that got hacked, they're pretty massive, but it's all the way down to the individual companies as well. So there, if you want to see that. I'm gonna hand these out because at the end of this, you guys have a chance at $50. So make sure you fill these out.
All you have to do is supply your email address and our password.
Hey, you guys realize this is a test.
It's gonna be a test.
This is a test.
Well, actually, ironically, you said that. Wait a minute, where did,
Mary, did you get that?
oh, there we go. I got myself back. So I'm not gonna take a lot of time to say who I am. I am trained in the new Department of Defense Cyber Maturity Model Certification. That's gonna be fun and exciting. Imagine everything the government did in the worst possible way to implement, and you have what I learned. But it is directly mostly toward manufacturing, but it is a very high standard because you need more.
Yeah, I need one more.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Because of the problems of what's happened with ransomware, what's happened to a lot of the cities and some of the counties. And so they're trying to stop this constant attack that's happening all over the government. And they figure they should stop it with their suppliers first. Interesting decision, but that's okay. That's how the government works. Somebody else's problem first. Okay, so I've been doing this for a freaking long time. That's my CMMC. And so our primary focuses are government, education, and business, with manufacturing right now being our real primary focus. So, but we decided that cybersecurity should be fun. Everybody talks about all the terrors and horrors. I want you guys to go and do something fun. So if you could take out your phones and go to Kahoot, KAHOOT.IT, we're going to play a game. Share this.
You hate to ask, what was that again?
KAHOOT.IT. It's going to pop up here as soon as I do this. So it's Kahoot.IT. So we're going to play a game. If anybody that remembers war games from the 1980s.
Asking me if I want the app.
What?
He's asking me if I want an app.
Yeah, it's a Kahoot app. Again, I'm gonna make you do all the wrong things that I tell you don't do right now, because it's fun.
Yeah, just you're wondering if this is a lesson.
We're gonna blow the world. Well,
We gotta get that $50 to pay out for our phones tonight.
It's funny you said that, because I've done this now, well, not this presentation, but a series of presentations over the last few weeks. And because of what I said, every person that won called me and asked if they really won the $50 before they clicked on the Amazon gift link. I said, great job, I love that, I'm gonna tell everybody that I did it. Okay, we'll give it a few moments. But yes, and that's one of the things that I'm starting to realize is we gotta make this fun or you'll cry. If you look at the numbers that most security people throw up there, and I'm gonna throw some up there too, I think. I can't remember which presentation I'm in, so you'll have to bear with me. But you know, they're billions of dollars and they're just unimaginable. But the truth is, if you take it a little more lighthearted, and I'll talk to everybody towards the end about our CyberCat series, it's just ways to have fun with this. Make it more enjoyable so it's not always so onerous in everything you do. So has everybody gotten in, or anybody still waiting? Everybody have a chance to win. Go for it, Dan. Okay.
Sign in, to sign up or log in.
You don't have to sign up, you should be able to just do it as a guest. Nobody's ever told me they signed up before. Everybody else signed
Just
up.
create free account, log in or sign up.
I
Maybe
think you could just do the game.
Maybe later.
later.
Yeah, try that.
Aren't we going to ask you for a nickname?
Yeah, just pick whatever name you want. What? You can pick any name you want. Probably should keep it not inappropriate. Otherwise, I might not be able to put this onto this video. Is everybody in? Okay, we're going to start the game. Here we go. Intro to ransomware. What percentage of security professionals think their companies are not ready for a ransomware attack? You have 10%, 25%, 50%, or 100%. What do you think it is? We actually have some music playing in the background. Maybe next time. It is 50% of companies. So that's a terrifying number. That means most people out there cannot handle when an attack comes. And considering that it could be healthcare, it could be your financial, it's kind of a scary situation all the way around. Next question. Oh, Sky Grandpa's winning. Look at that. Good job. Next question. Which is the most common way to get ransomware? Weak passwords, spam email, lack of cyber training, poor user practices. Which one do you think causes ransomware? And I'll tell you now, they all cause it. It's just which one is the highest. That's right, spam email. Most ransomware gets through on a spam or an email that somebody clicks on. And that comes down to, like you were saying, the human element. Make sure you train your people. Okay, Sky Graph is still winning, but Spike is moving up. Look at him, he's coming close. Okay, question 3. How often will a company be attacked by ransomware in 2021? Every 5 seconds, every 15 seconds, every 11 seconds, every 30 minutes? How often do you think people are getting attacked? Once every 11 seconds. That's a pretty terrifying number by itself. We'll go into a little bit of that, but just the thought of how often this is happening. Oh, me is on fire. Look at me. I've always known I'm on fire, so there you go. Next question. What percentage of financial institutions have experienced ransomware attacks? 15%, 45%, 7%, or 90%? How many do you think?
100%.
100%. Yeah, I think you're
It's the worker.
the one. That's a scary thought there, isn't it? It is 90%. Almost all financial institutions have been ransomware attacked. That's it. When I found this number, I was really amazed.
Does that mean they've been attacked, or does that mean they've been successfully attacked?
It just said attack.
Attack.
If they were
Really got it.
successfully attacked,
They
We
try.
would have heard about it. We didn't hear about it, so.
Well, and you have to remember, you can attack a branch and that'd still be a financial institution. So what they constitute as financial institution can be pretty wide. And again, if you lose a PC, that's different than if it hits the servers of the main environment. There are more protections on the main environment than some of the legacy PCs. But again, it shows you how much they're trying to. And again, they only have to get through one of these bigger companies, and it's a massive payday for them. Okay, what is the average cost of ransomware per incident in 2020?
Oh.
2,500, 120,000, 13,300, $8,100. Which one of these would you like to get just because you screwed over your neighbor? $8,100. So you got the 4 or 5 million ones, you got the $500 ones, averages out to still a pretty good chunk of change for a one-day action. I would not mind making that in one day, just don't do it that way. A lot of gift cards, yes, that would give a lot of gift cards. Okay. John is still leading. Yes, okay, last question, who can catch back up? What is the estimated total cost of ransomware in 2020? 20 billion, 500 million, 45 billion, 2 billion. Which one do you think you wish you had in your bank account? I'd go with any, but,
Kind of gotta look at what do you need the cost, you know?
yeah,
How many people paid out?
yeah, trust me, and that's when you get these statistics, that's what you have to think about, because it was 20 billion, but that includes the cost of recovery. And I'm gonna talk about the terrors of not getting your stuff back. So we have worked with companies that got ransomware, and even paying the ransom didn't guarantee them anything. So you end up with that situation. Okay, let's see who we have. John came in third. Good job, John. Me came in second. I'm just not good enough. And then number 1, Jojo. Excellent. Okay, now we can get back. Hopefully you guys had fun doing that and learned lots of terrifying things all at the same time. So I'm one of those people, I'd rather you guys talk to me than me talk to you. It is about you. I will do my best to answer questions you have. Don't be afraid to ask them. I want this to be interactive. I have done this enough times that I don't need to hear myself tell these slides any more than I already have. So ask questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll make something up, but either way, it'll be good. Okay, what we're going to cover today. We're first going to talk about ransomware. I'm going to tell you what it means to be encrypted. I'm going to go over why they do it. Some of the common attacks. You saw email was the commonest one. Then we're talking about ways to protect yourself. And then what can you do if you get ransomware, who can you reach out to and why? And then you get another quiz because it's all about quizzes, right? You're back in school. And then we're done. You can go home and kind of shake in your bed. And then of course, do the survey, make some money. That's what this is all about anyways, right? Okay. So somebody else tell me, because you already shared, somebody else tell me, what do you think ransomware is? Don't make me pick, because I'll start picking people. I'm a real pain in the butt now. I'll look on the room, the person looking over there. Go ahead.
A company, the hackers somehow get into your system, encrypt your data in such a way that you cannot open it again, and then tell you, if you want to ever see your data again, you got to pay us this much money in Bitcoins or gift cards or some other untraceable way.
Yeah, that's good. That's exactly right. So when they talk about encrypting, what does that mean? So I want somebody to read this sentence to me. Can anybody read this sentence?
We need the key.
You need the key. Yes, you're cheating. This is an encrypted sentence. What encryption means is, and I'm going to click on this and you're going to see, in some way, readable words are translated into unreadable characters. Now, in this example, it is a 10-character shift, meaning A goes 10 characters over and that's it. That's real easy to crack. But when computers do it, they do thousands of conversions and create what's called a hash. That makes it so that if you don't have the right key, you have a very slim chance of ever breaking it. So this says, this is a wonderful day. But if you see it that way, it probably isn't a wonderful day. So this is what they're doing. They're taking your information and they're turning it into unreadable information. The information's still there. And if you have the key, you can get it back. But if you don't have the key, depending on what they use, it could take 5,000 years to crack it. You can do it, but it just takes a long time. So this is what they do to you. And usually what they do is they send an email that says, click here, we need to install this program for Zoom, or we need to give you this free thing from Amazon. You click on it, it says, please install this program, and then it immediately starts looking through your computer to find any files it can that it's going to encrypt. And they can do some nasty things. There's your payment out, $70 million. So from a business standpoint, that's a great business model. You're getting a lot of money for doing this. So that's why you keep doing it.
But one reason I got that question wrong is the $8,000 figure. It seems like they're aiming for more of a manageable dollar amount. Does that mean they're really gonna come through? How many really come through?
You mean to give you the key?
Yeah.
It's terribly low. We actually, I have a slide for that I can tell you right now, but you know, I gotta keep my slide. But it
I'm
is.
suspense. I'm just waiting.
Let me put it this way, it is slow, so low relatively speaking, that the FBI tells you do not pay the ransom. People don't listen because unfortunately you have to hope you can get back. But for most people, it doesn't come back. Okay, so the point of this is to cripple your technology, lock your data, and hold it for ransom. The ones that are quote ethical in the world will release it. The others won't. And here is that number. Only 25%, even when you pay, get your number back. And the worst part about paying is you get marked as a customer, which means they will actively try to get you again. Because most of the people that are doing this are not skilled hackers. They're buying ransomware kits and they're looking for IP addresses that have paid, because when you sell your products, you go for the customer that doesn't pay or the customer that pays. Seems pretty straightforward. So this is a terrifying number, because if you needed that information that's lost, you still have a good chance you're not getting it back. And they don't, I mean, it's not like you can go and complain to the Better Business Bureau. They don't really care. Okay. And thousands of new targets. And again, they're starting to focus down on smaller and smaller companies, because smaller and smaller companies work with large companies, and they have less security. So this is becoming a big problem, because the big companies have put a lot of blocks in the way. The smaller companies work with the big companies, and so they use them to get through the door. Literally, if you guys remember Target, the Target hack, they use the air conditioning company system to do it. Why do they do it? Money. They do it for financial gain. There's other people that are social hackers that, when I worked for BP, there's a lot of social hackers that are trying to shut down BP because it was BP. So there are people that do that. Ransomware, it's about taking your money. When I talk about Coventry schools, that one was accidental ransomware attack, because they were designed to go after bigger targets. I'll explain that. Here's an interesting story. There's the losses. There's the money they make each time. I mean, do the math. If I get 100, I almost win $1 million just in ransomware attacks, and it's not that hard. So how do they attack? It's heavily, 65% come through phishing attacks. So most of it comes through your email.
And I want hard credit because I said it was users, because that is part of the user, but
Well, it's funny, because
I understand the answer.
this is what they put second, is lack of cybersecurity training. And that's one of the things, and one of the reasons I say that we're trying to make fun cybersecurity is, it used to be, and CMMC has this requirement that you have to do at least once a year cybersecurity training. I don't know how you guys are. Hopefully this is an exciting cybersecurity training program, because compared to what I've gone through, most of them are the most dry, boring things, and they do them for 8 hours. So imagine listening to somebody drone on for 8 hours. And then now, for the next 364 days, you're supposed to remember what they told you. It doesn't work. So we're actually putting together these 5-minute, we're working with the company, we're not gonna go, to do these 5-minute videos that employees can watch once a week, that talk just one small part of what's happening. Because I think the problem is, we take it too seriously and we do it too heavy. And so, when you do this, and if anybody wants, I do have white papers on setting up training that we give away free, all you gotta do is ask. But this is the second thing, knowing not to click on a email. And I'm gonna tell you a story again, my own company. We started what's called white hat hacking. We have email phishing attacks that come from a trusted source. When we started this, our customer service agent clicked on it. It took her through the remediation, and she came into the team meeting. She's like, "Why didn't you tell us you were starting this?" I said, "If we told you we were starting it, it wouldn't have worked right." After that, trust me, she didn't click on anything. But that's what it comes down to is you want to be training them every day. You want to make this a part of our cultural development, not just once a year, oh, we checked it off. Because I guarantee those are the companies that are gonna end up with somebody getting hacked. Weak passwords. If you have password one, and I think we have, there's a video that I love, I think it's in here, hopefully it works, about passwords. But passwords are one of your best defenses. If you don't have a secure password, you're gonna find yourself in trouble. And we use LastPass, but if you have a different password management system.
Yeah, I prefer one password's kind of more Mac friendly.
Yeah, I was gonna, that's what I
And
said.
I'm trying to arrange a future program. I could present it, but I don't want to prepare, so I'm hoping I'll get them to do it. But I'll present it if I need to.
But password management is good. We use LastPass. It's on my phone, it's on my computer. So I have a really complex LastPass password that I keep in a safe, literally, in our fire safe in our house. And then all the rest of my passwords are in there. Because I have over 450 passwords through all the clients that we have. And, some of the clients have their administrator password with us. So I have to keep this very secure. And I can't remember it all. And my passwords are now like A31, capital Z2, !7. You're not going to guess it just by sitting there typing away. It's not my wife's name, it's not my child's name. But most of us have very weak passwords. And you can't believe the number of people that have their Facebook password and their bank password have the same password. That is really bad because Facebook doesn't really seem to care about your password. They seem to give it out freely. I don't know, I can't understand. And then malice websites and web apps. So, and we'll talk about why it's on the rise, but the truth is, everybody working from home has made this worse. And I'll kind of go into why. Why is it growing? Working from home. Because I'm sure at your office, there's a crud load of security laid on top of it. Really high-end firewalls and control access. Once you leave that, a lot of that goes away. Your house doesn't have that. And until the middle of the pandemic, people used to do what's called split pipe. They'd have a VPN into the really secure area, and then they just went off to the internet. And hackers figured out really quickly, get in there, and then all of a sudden you're open to go into the network. So when you're working from home, you are a big risk. And all of us, my whole team works from home, so we understand that. And hopefully we never go back to the office. I hate office life, but it does come with risks, and that training becomes important. Security standards are behind. It's amazing to me how many companies have not implemented a lot of the standards you should be doing. They don't have a security plan. They don't have a recovery plan in place. If you get hacked, how do you recover? What do you do? They don't think about that until the day they're hacked. And I'll give 2 examples. Actually, I might as well do it now because that's always good. So we had 2 clients. One that came because they got ransomware. And they came to us, they had already got ransomware. They had lost all of their files. They got onto their server and it corrupted everything. Now, it took almost $15,000. They paid the money, they paid the $500, and never got a key. I told them not to pay it, but they thought they could get it back. So we had to rebuild all of their documents and all of their information from scratch. It's a really painful thing. I was able to get some of them back, but most were lost. And later on, I'm going to talk about backups. They had their backup attached to their computer because it was easier. So all 6 of their backups that were on their external drive was wiped out when the server was wiped out. So don't do that. We'll talk about that. Greater connectivity. So you have your phone, you can do hotspots. I can't count the number of times I've had a company where somebody didn't want to have to hassle with the internet connection because of all the restrictions. So they just turned on their hotspot, had their laptop hooked up to the hotspot and the company, and all of a sudden now they're open and exposed. So greater connectivity comes with lots of threats. And ransomware is very successful. You do what's successful when you're in business. They're in business. Terrible business, but it's a business. So I kind of relate it to the drug cartels. It's a business, it makes money, it's a horrible business. So let's kind of talk about who's been hacked. So this is the one I want to take a little bit of time. Coventry Schools. How many of you remember when Coventry Schools got hit? About 2 years ago? So why this is so interesting is what they got hit by was actually designed to go after financial institutions. The person who got hit by it was never a target. It was never intended to go after a school. They didn't care about schools. But because the school, and this is the saddest part, the patch to stop it was released a year later, but they hadn't deployed it. It took out their air conditioning, HVAC system. It took out their door access system. It took out all their student record system. It destroyed everything, and it had been patched, but they just didn't roll out the patches. So that's an important part. That's where when we talk about stuff is behind, that's what that means. So you want to keep up to date.
I guess like the other comment for like, at least when I see from Mac users, is a lot of folks want to, they want to keep using old versions of Adobe, Adobe Suite, this suite. Is there something I need to do?
Sorry, there's just somebody on the phone that was trying to connect to you guys to Zoom meeting, and she said she's having issues with music.
Okay.
Can you-
All right, I'll go. No, I can, is she Russian?
Is she Russian? We're being hacked, guys.
Do you have a name and number for her?
I do know, she's on the phone right now.
Why don't you go take care of it?
Okay.
I'll keep talking, and then we come back and put the Mac piece in. Because as Spike said, I am not a Mac person, and I don't try to pretend like I am one on TV either. I'm good in my world, I stay in my lane and let other experts be in their lanes. Okay. Cleveland Public Airport. This one, again. What?
That made the news.
It definitely made the news. I was working with Power when that happened, so I got some calls and some questions about it. But it came down to how they had backup set up. And trust me, the person who is now the CIO for the airport is a good friend of mine. None of that exists anymore. But it isn't that they did things wrong. It just was not at a secure enough level where they should have been. And too many times, I always love this statement, the cowboy shoes are the ones that are never repaired. They don't do what they need to do because there's so many other fires that are actually hurting them today. And that's when you get killed. And I work for a school district, so trust me, I know going around and patching every machine was never the top priority for the district. They didn't care. What?
That's what CASA is there for.
Yeah.
So what a great target
Yes.
to go after your system that's supposed to be preventing this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And that patching is so important, but then they go after it. And they are smart enough to know, go after where you're weakest. And that's what they're doing. And there's always, these systems, whether it's Mac or PC or Linux, are extremely complex. And because they're interacting with all these things, people miss things. They're only human. And that's what happens. How many of you have heard the term zero-day attack? So for those of you who don't know what a zero-day attack is, it's an attack that is some type of breach in the operating system that they had not yet found. So somebody starts exploiting it really quickly, and then it's a race. Who can get it fixed before the hackers get information? And that's why it's one of the worst type of attacks. It's also the least common because the companies are always out there looking for what's open. But when they do find it, did you have a question?
Well, when you're done, I was just gonna say, I was reading some articles about the US government who knows about a lot of these things because they use it to attack other people, and some of those secrets have gotten out and then were used to attack even US companies.
Yes, and
It's a little bit of a controversy.
And that's part of the problem in the world is the United States has a vested interest in hacking, just like China does in Russia. We pretend like we don't, but we really do. And so there's a lot of hacking tools that are coming out of the Department of Defense. And then other people get them and they use them against us. So yes, and the Department of Defense has allowed hacks to exist that they could have stopped because they wanted to use them against our enemies. So it's a catch-22 of the spy world. It just happens we get caught in the middle of it. But yeah, right, that is definitely one of the things. We all heard about Colonial Pipeline. That was actually a SCADA system that got hacked. It was controlling all the pipelines. Brought it down, and they even had security in place, but their system was so large that it was very hard to restore it, even with the systems in place. JDS Foods caused meat problems. And the NBA, my son told me I had to put that one on. But you can see if these large companies are getting hit, it can leave you kind of feeling, what do I do? The beauty is, there's a lot of things you can do that even they don't do, and that's where you have an advantage, because you are your only person. Getting enough training to get 1,000 people to do the right thing can be a challenge. I see that look, he knows what I'm talking about. Okay. So what the heck do we do if we do get attacked? Well, the FBI is actually your friend. Which is kind of strange because the FBI, when I actually got a wire attack for $40,000, said, $100,000, we don't care, we're not gonna help you. Back in 2008, terrible time to get a $40,000 attack. That's actually when I started to do cybersecurity because I realized how bad it was if you get hacked. But they've gotten much better. So the first recommendation is keep your operating system and applications current and up to date. I know patching is a pain in the ass. I was just at a client today where they patched QuickBooks and it went south because patches also come with problems. Microsoft had a problem a few weeks back. Patching can be a problem, but the danger of not patching is coming through school. And you don't want to be in that situation. Make sure you have antivirus and anti-malware up to date. I always love when I go into the computer and I see that the last time the antivirus was updated was 2 years ago. You know, if it says 2018, update it. Spend the money on the antivirus if you aren't, because you do not again want to find out that somebody got through. Antivirus does not guarantee that you'll be completely protected. I'm going to tell you that, but it is one step in a multi-layer approach. You have to have lots of levels to keep yourself safe, because no one level is going to do it. Back up regularly with ransomware resistant backup, and make sure you test your backup. In the backup world, if you haven't tested it, it doesn't exist. I tell everybody this story because it's one of my favorites. It's an older story, but it's still one of my favorites. I went to a doctor's office. They had gotten a ransomware attack, and they were all excited. They handed me these tapes that were their backups. So I took the tape and I put it in. Now they told me they've been doing these tapes every day for years. The problem was the tape had stopped running. So this was in 2009. The tape had stopped running in 2007. They stuck the tape in every day, but nobody checked to make sure it actually did anything. And then they popped it out the next day and put the next one in. There was nothing there. There was
I know
no
a big design firm that did that thing. I remember I tested the backup and then the server died and they lost everything. It wasn't a ransomware, but
yes.
and I had another client that was backing up the alias to the QuickBooks file, not the original file.
That was very helpful, was it?
So like,
That would hurt.
yeah, we discovered that before there was a problem, but that was, you know, like, people don't really, they're not very knowledgeable when they afterwards, even make a mistake, it's even easy to make a mistake you didn't do now.
What do you mean ransomware resistant?
So ransomware resistant means, there's a couple of things that means. First of all, if you have a backup, it should not be attached to the computer that it's backing up after the backup is done. You should have multiple. And then if you use like a cloud backup, so people were using Dropbox as a backup. Dropbox is not necessarily a backup. You have to pay for a special backup feature with them. If you were using Dropbox as a backup that way, and you got it, it literally spread to every computer that was attached to that shared file. And that actually happened to a client. So it's not enough to say I'm backed up. You need to make sure that you are doing the proper steps. If you're doing it to a USB drive, that USB drive has to be disconnected and kept separate from where it's backing up. And you want multiple levels. And so nothing should ever be attached to the computer. If you are buying, like we resell data, they actually will say they're ransomware resistant. So if you're buying a third party, ask them if they are actually going to have ransomware resistant. Because it doesn't do any good if you back up encrypted files. So that's where that comes in. And that's unfortunately what happened at the airport, was they had their backups, but it was able to get to the backups and encrypt everything. So you want to make sure that the term in technology is air gap. There has to be a separation between the backup and the system it's backing up.
How far back in time does that have to go?
Thank you. Great question.
Because like, you know, I know like, I mean, I've seen some ransomware where it's on the machine, but it doesn't, let's see, I don't think it, I think it, but the ransom is delayed. So if your backup is like 1 week old and it doesn't get it.
Doesn't even good. And so, whoops. The answer to that is, it depends on what your requirements are. So I was telling you, we had two companies. I told you about the disaster one. The other company, we had our data solution on it, and they got ransomware. We're able to reverse back. We saw the actual ransomware. You can see the files encrypted when it's ransomware. You'll see all of a sudden, instead of saying like mom's pictures, it'll say gobbledygook. We realized that was happening, and we're able to stop it and roll it back, and they lost 15 minutes of work. But our backup solutions usually are a year. One backup a day minimum. You can do 2 or 3 or 4, depending on, because the other part is if you have any compliance requirements, you have to meet those compliance requirements. But we usually do a year. So if you do have something where they encrypted an area of your hard drive that you don't look at, you can go back a month, 2 months, whatever you need to go back to get it. There are other backups that can be forever. I think 7 years is required for medical. I know this for pharmaceutical. But usually I would say you should have at least 3 months in a backup, and a year is usually the best. But it's a choice. If you're doing it just to a USB drive, you can only back up as many copies as you have space on the USB drive. So, and then you just have.
But they're cheap, so.
They're fairly cheap, yes.
My husband and I run a company and we run our software as cloud-based.
Mhm.
Our client information is up in the cloud. Now, from time to time, I download my data information, sort of put that aside. But even they're not perfect. They go down every once in a while and it's like, and we're trying to do our customer routing for the day, like it's down, you know?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, no, well, it's like, we still turn out every day our route. And we have it's crude, but it's a backup plan, you know? And we share with other guys in our same business and say, well, you have to ask them every once in a while, what would you do if our cloud-based software went down? What do you recommend, you know, when you're a cloud-based, you know, software company running your business?
Well, I will tell you, Microsoft actually says, I know Google has the same thing, but we are Microsoft partners, so I can share theirs. We are not a backup. We do not guarantee your data. We recommend a third-party backup because if you lose your data, so sorry, it's right in their user agreement. They will tell you have 30 days and all this stuff, but they don't have to do it. They don't have any obligation. So we always suggest with Office 365 and G Suite, which is the G Suite, but I can't remember what it's called, having a third-party backup. That also takes it out. One of the things people don't understand is the cloud doesn't exist. There is no cloud. There's just rented space on somebody else's servers. So they're still servers, which means they can still get attacked, they can still get destroyed. And, you know, one of the things I say, especially for the health customers, is ask for the security policy, plan, and commitment from your providers and their backup. Did they give
They
you
were
one?
surprised. Yeah, they were like, oh, you're the first person who's ever asked that.
Yeah, I asked that of all of
That's why
us.
you drilled it into me.
Good job. But that's important, and nobody asked that question.
Yeah.
And for like CMMC, you have to ask. So there's a Dayton company that is looking to become CMMC compliant for the DoD. And when I was talking to them, they have an MSP that has all of their backups. And I said, well, does that MSP or the backup provider have a security policy that you can, nobody ever thought to ask. They said, the government cares where the data is. They don't care who you are. They care where their data is. And if you don't know, you're in violation. It's all about the data, and people don't think about that. Most of your information is there. If they go away, you could be sitting left, you know, when, yes.
I just want to say, like, the good vendors out there, they will hand you their SOC 2 report as if they're handing out a business card, the good ones, they're ready with all of that.
Yeah.
Insurance binders, things like, and honestly, that's the quickest way to sniff out maybe one you'd be more likely to use versus one that you might not want to use. Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, it's like handing out a business card for these people there. Because what a SOC 2 represents is that another company came in and audited them. And everything out there is about whether, like, words like compliance, it's about having a third party come in and audit you, whether it's your financial practices, your security. That's really what those SOC 2 represents. And the good ones, it's like, yep, here you go.
Anyone that, so we use all third parties for all the services we use, because we're an 8-person company, getting the compliance would be very hard. So we pass off all of that. I don't, a lot of my competitors have servers in their, in their basement that they're backing information up. Well, if they're doing that, they're gonna have to prove to you that that's actually a viable backup. That's why we use national with all of the stuff already collected for you. But you want to find that out. And if they are surprised by the fact that somebody's asking them for their security standards and they're holding your data up in the cloud, that's a scary thought. That means nobody's taking the time to say, hey, is it really safe? You probably want to ask what their backup policy is. I mean, because again, if you have the backup and the data in the same place and something goes wrong, you got nothing. And so many places have that. So backups connected to your computer. So it's important to remember that. That is vitally important, that your backups are only as good as if you have them. If you are using the cloud, you really need to know if there's backups. You really need to know how long their backup is. Because again, if you have a ransom attack that is slowly encrypting over time, and they only give you 30 days, well, great, you have a backup, but it doesn't do any good, because by the time you get to it, it's already too late. So take that seriously. That's a great thing. I'm going to bring that up in the rest of my presentations as I do this, because the cloud is where most data now lives. And if you trust it, you can find yourself in bad shape. And again, cloud is renting somebody else's system. This is a good one. You definitely showed how Kaseya does it, but even as individuals, you should at least have a general idea, how will I let everybody know if I get hacked? Obviously, you don't have to write a 30-page plan document, but just think about it. Because think about how much you'd feel better if one of your vendors said, oh, we got hacked, watch out for us, please don't answer that. Then to click on something that they send that ends up costing you lots of money. Okay, quick ransomware recovery. The best recovery is backup. So have backups. Backups can be done depending, well, for you guys, you're probably looking at once or twice a day. So you could potentially lose up to a half day's worth of work, which is tragic, but it's a lot less than losing days and days of work.
Time machine will back you up hourly.
Yeah.
And it will back up to 2 drives. So you can actually have more than one disk.
That I didn't know.
It's how you test your computer though.
Right? But you
That's
can
the bad
rotate
part.
it. They don't have like a formal scripting for rotation, but you can manually do that.
That's what you have to-
So you
rotate
can
your
switch
drives.
between 2
Yes.
drives. You also can handle a backup on more than one computer. So if you have stuff syncing to the cloud, you can back it up on if you have a laptop, you can hook it up to a desktop and do it there.
Yeah, and you can use things like carbon, and again, backup was important. Don't worry about things that aren't, but make sure you're backing up what's important. But yeah, you can use Time Machine and Carbonite in conjunction, for example.
Carbonate really doesn't work it on Mac.
I was gonna say, I don't think Carbonite should on that. That's
Backblaze,
all.
which is the best there, they fund NPR support them, but Backblaze works good on Mac.
So there you go. I knew there was another one, I should know that, but yeah, so that's, yes.
I was just gonna say, one of the other important things, I don't know if you talked about it yet, is the physical security of your backups. I know companies that have had their backup tapes stolen or they lost them and they had to report out to their customers that, we've been hacked.
And I wasn't going, physical security is a whole conversation, and it's really important. I wasn't going into it because we have so much that we're already covering. But yes, physical, and again, Department of Defense, I have to share this, because you said it shows a third-party audit. A lot of compliances don't have a third-party audit. SOX does. CMMC now does. The old DoD standard was basically a self-assessment. And I always love that because I went into a manufacturer on the East Coast, and one of the rules is that your server has to be physically secured and isolated. They were certified. Their server was sitting behind the secretary in the front lobby, but they were certified for this DoD service. So, yes, when physical security is the first step you have to do, but yes.
When we had some of our SOC audits done, we have a server room, we have wiring closets, and the day before, I'm like running around, I'm like, look, don't prop these doors open today, okay? It's like, I know, there's, because we got other crap in some of these wiring closets. I'm like, look, guys, I don't care how many trips you have to go back and forth, you're gonna unlock the door. Because that is, these auditors, they go right up to that server room and they try to turn the knob.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah, that's, what do you have a third, yes?
So when you have like Google Drive, Dropbox, and you have OneDrive, and you all do automatic backups, are you better off just doing it manually so that in case your machine gets hit by ransomware, it doesn't automatically transfer to your backup in cloud?
Well, I use a cloud backup. We have Backupify and iDrive that does it directly on the cloud. And they're ransomware backups. This is the problem I'll tell you with manual backups. You won't. You'll start doing them, you'll be all excited about it, and then 2 weeks later, something else will be really important, and you'll forget to do it that week. And then kind of like working out, we all get like, I'm really excited, it's January 1st, I'm gonna work out. February 1st, well, maybe I'll work out next week. Then I'll work out next month. That's what I found. That's what basically happens is some people have the commitment to make a manual backup work. The 98% of us that are left won't. So yes, you can do it manually, but I recommend using a cloud backup solution to back up your cloud service solution.
Dropbox only gets documents, it doesn't get library files and all sorts of other kinds of things. Well, like on Windows 10, you have OneDrive, you're implementing it so you can back up your entire drive. What I'm saying is that if your backup hasn't been affected yet by the encryption, you're off just pulling a plug on the back of your computer, so it's disconnected from the web, so that it can't back itself up and then just corrupt your data in the backup.
If your computer is corrupted and you see it's corrupted, and you see it fast enough, yes, get it isolated. That's what he was talking about. He isolated his servers. You don't want to, so, I can't remember which nonprofit, but I was working with Jumpstart. That's not the nonprofit that had a problem. There's another nonprofit there. They're on the same network. Their computer had a virus. Now, our system started screaming because we had all this stuff, and I was able to find where that virus was, and I isolated that computer. Then their IT company came in and plugged it back into the network and shut everything down again. So I went and unplugged it again. They plugged it back in, so I disconnected their port, it no longer worked. But you do, it's like anything else. If a person becomes sick, isolate them. If a computer becomes sick, isolate them. Don't leave them on the network.
That's COVID right there, but I'm sorry, you mentioned air gap.
Yes.
And it seems like to me, good old fashioned means I'm taking a tape and I'm putting it right there. How do some of the modern systems, help me out here, Carbonite, Dropbox, some of these other tools, are they fulfilling, are they making an air gap? And if not, what are some of the things you have to look out for in a backup solution? More or less what you were talking about to maybe, cut this off so that you have this air gap.
So, yeah, and then the backups have active observance technology. So they're looking for ransomware activity on everything they bring in. And they do keep so they have the current backup, and then on a different server, they have previous backup. So if this one shows ransomware behavior, it doesn't replicate it back, and they keep that isolation. And they won't tell me exactly how they do it. The data won't tell me.
Well, let's hope not.
And I'd be a little disappointed if they did. But the theory is they don't have any one place where all backups are stored. They're at least in 2 different locations, preferably 3. They're isolated, and they're watching with behavior analysis software for that's the ransomware resistance. And that's why the word resistance is not ransomware protection, because it still can get through no matter what. But the theory is You have one server here, you have one server here, they don't replicate to a certain staging time. And that way, hopefully you're watching to see if this is happening before it goes over here and does it there.
That would really like the virtual equivalent, like a quick disconnect hose from a gas station, someone has the gas pump hooked in, you decide you want to drive off.
It just pops it out.
Yeah, it just pops it out and disconnects it to keep it from a larger,
Yeah, instead of spraying gas all over that thing
Right.
blowing up. Okay. That must be it next. I'm gonna say the next thing up here is gonna be ransomware rollback. So, and I apologize, this is a PC standard. I don't know if Macs do this, they probably do. But basically what you can do is you can actually roll back an encrypted file. This comes, the one we use is from SentinelOne, which is one of the leaders in cybersecurity. So if you do get ransomware, it does get through all the other layers, the patches and the antivirus and the intrusion prevention systems, and it still gets on there. This will let you actually go in and say, I want the computer like it was 5 minutes ago, and it can roll it back. So it's a really neat way. Most people are going to use this for their backup, but especially if you really have systems that are active, that ransomware rollback is a nice feature to have.
So is that like a snapshot, like a Windows snapshot?
It's effectively what
Time Machine does.
Right, yeah. And like I said, as Spike said, I am not a Mac person, so I don't even try to comment on it. But yeah, I figured there's probably something there to do that. So it's basically being able to roll back to a state right before the ransomware.
I didn't even know snapshots existed until I was, had to fix the Mac. I ran it through Distro State and it kept saying snapshot 1, snapshot. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm sitting there all freaking day waiting for these, snapshot after snapshot. And then of course, I looked it up and that's what it told me, but.
Yeah. Yes, so
But
that,
yeah, it doesn't, you can go back 15 minutes ago if you
yeah,
want.
you can go back and,
Yeah.
Again, the problem with like ransomware rollback is if you don't touch it for long enough, those backup versions become slowly encrypted over time.
Right.
So if you have a,
From a technical standpoint, okay, if your computer is encrypted and all stuff, so would you effectively have to remove the hard drive to get the to do ransomware rollback?
well, no, the ransomware rollback is from so like SentinelOne, there's a dashboard that you use to go into that then roll back to your computer.
Yeah, but effectively your entire computer is compromised.
So your computer is compromised, so you'd have to use a different computer to go to the console to roll it back.
To overwrite the data that's already on it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I was saying, if you're introducing stuff to infect your computer, wouldn't that mean data being encrypted as well as it's being reintroduced to your computer?
It depends. SentinelOne goes through and tries to find the program that's causing the write-in. So again, it's that layered conversation.
And then kill it. So
And
that
then
you
kill
can-
it. Yeah, so it then kills it, then you can roll it back. And now SentinelOne is the one we know. I know there's others that do it. Just Time Machine, no. You just use Time Machine and you don't stop the application that's running. You're gonna put it back and then you encrypt it. You put it back and then you encrypt it. So you do need to kill the virus. But again, you can look for, and I can see if I can find what does it on Macintosh. You have to look for a program that kills the virus and then rolls the system back, because otherwise it's like having the flu, stopping coughing, but staying with the flu. I wasn't gonna say COVID, but we're all sick of COVID.
Thank you.
Okay. If you get ransomware, what does the FBI suggest? You all love the FBI. Report the incident to your local FBI office. Not sure you're gonna do that, but this is really easy. If you do get ransomware or any other real cyber attack, go to ic3.gov. It's a great little website that will tell you what to do. And they will tell you this. They yelled at me at one presentation where I was doing with the FBI. They said, never tell anybody to pay anything. So I never tell anybody to pay anything, but if you have to pay it, I can tell you. Yes,
How long has that ability been around?
what ability?
The ability to contact the FBI. The average person on the average street in the average America doesn't know where the hell to call.
Yes, the answer is, in 2008, when I needed the FBI, I had to figure out how to call them.
Right.
To pay the ads. They built this because they figured out that all of this wire fraud and ransomware is costing the US economy billions.
Yeah.
And they finally took it seriously.
So when did they do that?
I think it was 2016. I have to look.
That's when I was there.
Yeah, so probably learn on that. So that's why I get this out to everybody, because nobody knows about this. That's why I take the time to say, look right here.
I called everybody. I called police, I called everybody, and I could
yeah.
not get anybody to listen to me.
Trust me, I completely understand.
Yeah.
And here's one of the things that the FBI will tell you if you have them present. They have a lot of the ransomware codes. Oops. So if you contact them, they might already have, since I told you, most of these ransomware attacks are just ransomware kits that they are using. They don't do the coding themselves. The big ones, like the Russian hack that happened, they are, but a lot of these smaller ones, they use it 1,000 times. They just use the same code over and over and over and over, because most people don't know what to ask. FBI might be able to get your information back without paying a penny. Make sure you talk to them. Okay, where can you go? So here's another one, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. FBI scan, and I will make a sheet of this and send it to Spike to share out. You don't have to write this stuff down.
This will go on our YouTube page eventually too.
Yeah, but I have a sheet for all of this information because I suck at writing myself. And of course, Internet Crime Complaint Center. And of course, you can always contact us because that's what we do. And we can contact the rest of them on your behalf. But we cost money, they're probably free, so for you guys, it probably makes sense to do that. Let's take a minute and talk about passwords. I cannot be a cybersecurity person and not talk about passwords. Make sure they're complex. When I worked for Benvenu Labs, any of you remember Benvenu Labs? Benvenu Labs was a pharmaceutical company in Bedford, Ohio, and I was their network administrator. And because we were FDA, we had a mandated requirement for complex passwords changed every 30 days. You want to know where all the passwords were for every employee in the company? Under the keyboard. So every time before the FDA auditors came in, if I knew they were coming because they came in as a surprise, I'd walk around and lift them all up and tell them get rid of all of your password notes that are under the keyboard, because you would have failed if they had seen that. Complex passwords are hard to remember. I told you that password, they have right here. I don't remember what I told you. So God help me if I have 400 of those that I don't remember. Get that password management from Spike. Don't try to remember it all. It's not worth it. Your password management application. Don't share or reuse passwords. And this is one thing, and it's hard for me because people will give me their password because it's convenient. When I was working on that QuickBooks today, I kept having to make the owner of the company come down and log in to QuickBooks because I would not take the password from them. It annoyed her, but she understood why I was doing it. A lot of people will try to give me their passwords, and the suggestion is you should change the password, give me that password, let me do my work, and then change it to something else when it's done. But people don't like to do that. But that's the best way to do it. I love that video because everybody did it. I had exclamation points in my password. Because that's what you do with it. But hackers also can figure out that. And I'd hate to ask how many of you actually had password as your password.
Never.
I'm sure none of you ever did that, but I'm sure you have friends that did. Okay. This is the second layer of protection after passwords. Anybody know what this is? Yes, what is it?
Means that you get a call on your cell phone to verify it's you.
Or text or code.
Or it's another device that's used.
Yes. That's right. So multi-factor authentication requires 2 or more of what I'm going to show you. What you know, that's your password. You know your password. We don't know our password, but we're supposed to know our password. So that's what you know. The next one is what you are. How many of you use face recognition on your phone?
Fingerprint?
What? Fingerprint recognition. Those are called biometrics. That's you. They actually have at some very high defense departments how you walk. Your gait is specific to you. So that's 2 factors of authentication. You have to have a password and your face, or your fingerprint, or some other thing that cannot be copied. And then the last one is what you have, which is what you talked about. My cell phone is mine, I have it. So if I put in my password and my cell phone rings, then I know it's me. Or if you get that weird text and you didn't log in, you know it's time to change your password. That's multi-factor authentication. If you're not using it, use it. If your bank doesn't require it, change banks. Straight up, no major financial institution should have you getting to your stuff without that. And I'm going to tell you, this is another terrible story. Terrible story that happened to a nonprofit that really couldn't afford to have this story happen. They were using a payroll company to do their payroll. Somebody hacked the payroll company, sent emails out that changed all of the bank accounts to his bank account. There was no two-factor authentication on it. So nobody knew that it all got changed. The payroll company said, too bad. Yeah, I got the right payroll company. Again, if they can't provide you with their security standards and they're not using multi-factor authentication, and they're a financial institution, don't be with them. I cannot say that strongly enough. I set up for Office 365 multi-factor authentication. I set it up for Facebook. If you want to know how to set up for Facebook, I'll tell you, because you don't want to get hacked on Facebook. It really looks annoying, especially for small businesses, because if you're doing arts and stuff and people are sending out nasty things through your Facebook, which a lot of you are probably using to get to potential customers, it looks bad. It doesn't take long to set up multi-factor authentication on Facebook. It's amazing how few people do it. Okay, there we go. Now I get to tell you, and you guys can sign up for this, or if you know somebody else that wants to, they can sign up for it. We have 10 companies that can get 15 hours of cybersecurity. Spike knows he had us do it for some of his customers. That's actually a $3,825 value. So if you know any small companies in Ohio are 500 employees or less. So it's a hell of a small company, I thought, but that's okay. And you get to work with me and my team. So hopefully you love me and you think I'm wonderful and you want to work with me. But so we're doing this. We're really excited. We actually have more than 10 companies because we got some more money from the CARES Act. But I put 10 companies because I know that would guarantee when I created this. But if you know any companies that want it, let me know. It's a great opportunity. It's a lot of money. And we can help kind of review where you are. We do a cyber risk review. Spike saw the one we did for criminal law. We try to be reasonable but in depth. I don't know if that's two combinable words, but that's what we do. And for most people, getting started is the most important thing. Okay, another quiz. Pull out your phones, everybody. We're going to do it again. This time we're going to see what everybody learned. Knees back on. Feel like I'm everywhere. Good job. That was real obvious.
We all know who it is.
There's me.
Epic fail.
Oh crap, I typed my password. I know y'all know my password.
Don't worry, don't post it on the internet. It'll be safe.
Sure, everything else is that's true.
Exactly. It's completely secure. Anybody else need to join? We're waiting for anyone. Don't want to have anybody miss out.
Oh, Mia's back.
There's me. Welcome back, me. Cybersecurity, Ransomware and Beyond. How much did you learn? Excited? There's a challenge. First question. Ransomware tries to take you to dinner, keep your data safe and sound, lock your data, steal your passwords. It's a trick question. It's take you to dinner. It really does. It'll take somebody to dinner. It won't be you, it'll take somebody to dinner.
$8,100.
Exactly, with no food. Okay, it is lock your data. Judy's husband's winning, Spike's in second, Judy's third. Next question. Who was attacked by ransomware? This is a trick question. It is who was attacked by ransomware presented in this presentation, because they all were attacked by ransomware. Colonial Pipeline, AT&T, Verizon, and Target. Which one did we talk about? Not which one was attacked. I should have put that. Yes, it was Colonial Pipeline. Target was actually a wire fraud attack, not a ransomware attack, so I checked too. They were stealing credit card information.
Do we get a better score if we answer faster?
Yes, the faster you answer, the better you score.
You're joining the game, great.
Gotta go quick. Born on a Saturday night because it works. Super fun. Their moms made them. Which one is the reason why they do That's just me, but everybody got that because it works. Seems like a good reason to do something, even if it's a bad thing. Oh, Judy's husband is taken back.
We're down the wire.
Yeah. What should you do to protect against ransomware? Lock yourself in the bathroom. Keep your lights on. Keep backups connected to your computer. Keep your operating system up to date. You guys all know it's this one, right? Backups only work when they're connected to the computer. Somebody got it right. Okay, well, you guys are doing good. You know, that actually works, so.
I'm on fire.
You're on fire.
Why are you on fire?
She asked
Because I answered
correctly. Which are two ransomware recovery methods? Drinking and crying, backup and ransomware rollback, sharing your password and keeping them in an unencrypted file. Call the FBI and ask for an agent to stay in your office. I think you should try that one.
Yeah.
I would love to see what happens if you try that one.
I think I probably do all of those.
Oh, Spike's moved into second. Way to go, Spike. Two more questions. You gotta fight hard. Where can you go for help if you get ransomware? IC3.gov, helpme.lost, ransomware.gov, blackhat.eu.
They're experts.
They are the experts. Always go wherever you see Black Hat. They're your best interest at heart. IC3.gov.
Who clicked on green one? Who's the black hat?
That was me.
Oh,
That's where I go all the time. Okay. Look at that. We got some change.
Oh, you're so slow.
Last one. How many SBDC 15-hour cybersecurity packages are we offering? 15, none, 10, 5.
I'm not gonna be on fire anymore. Oh my God, I guess you're right.
You know,
Wow.
this is how I got through college. So.
That's a miracle.
She's gonna go home and try to play this game again.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn, right? Judy's in third, in second, Spike, almost.
Uh-oh, is it me again?
Who's number one?
Judy's husband. Good job.
Funny thing.
I'm like your number one here, third idea. Yeah, in trouble.
Okay. Here's our new CyberCat. I don't know why the top is hidden. It says CyberCat says, Store your data securely with strong passwords to prevent data leaking. So if you sign up for our cyber tips, we send you one of these a week. So sign up for our cyber tips. They're fun. Okay, well, that's the end of the presentation.
Take the much well, please.
I tried. I do want to take one extra second, something completely unrelated to this, but since you guys are CD Pud, you might be able to help me. I'm working on a new project called iForever, and I'm looking for artists that would want to build space-themed merchandise to sell to people. So if you know anybody that's interested in that, iForever is a company that wants to take DNA into space, but its primary focus is to get people excited and encouraged to promote space travel and exploration. So that's totally unrelated to cybersecurity. It's my way of not doing cybersecurity.
Well, we're a little slow. We have to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
That's okay, take your time. Okay, let me do this. You can. What's that kind of quick? I will.
Are you watching online too?
Well, yeah, I just in case somebody has a
Oh,
question.
you can try to like, oh, look at it.
No, I could do the chat, I could do the chat.
Okay.
So this is,
You want to take one question and answers, Ken?
yeah, any questions anybody has?
Okay, so,
That's our website.
I guess I have a few opinions, but can you talk about Macintosh compared to Windows as far as where some of those kinds of things go?
Well, I'm sure we have our debates. Both of them have their concerns and problems. Windows has a much higher attack rate because it is much wider distributed. I don't tend to take a side. Things have hit Macintoshes, a lot more things have hit Windows, but at the same time, there's been a lot of work to kind of protect Windows. So I don't know, I'm very hesitant. I know like Windows suggested, and I know there's an issue, you should always have a firewall on your Windows. Macintosh has other security features, that's not as important. Every security person that talks to always want a firewall installed and active on your computer. It all depends on what type of security you need. But I know the keychain is encrypted. I don't know if people are still using keychain on Apple anymore or not.
They are, I mean, the keychain works pretty good. It's actually going to be improved in Monterey, where you can actually, there'll be a system frame pane where you can look at your passwords instead of having to go into Safari. And I believe it's going to work with Chrome, because like, right now, if you use Chrome on your Mac, then your passwords go into the keychain. So that's going to be improvement with Monterey, so that's a benefit for keeping that current. I actually did have a client that had a Mac server that got encrypted, and it was, the malware got onto the Mac server from a PC client, and was mounting an SSD volume. And it wasn't really a problem because we just restored the backup from the night before, and everything was fine. They did get attacked through a Windows machine connected to the Mac.
Other questions?
I've got several.
Go for it. I can make it faster.
Say you were a WordPress person and you were, webmaster of a WordPress site. I'm just talking about my HOA.
Okay.
And they have a place where they can register. When they register, they need approval before they're actually live.
Okay.
Before then, they're not. So they go in there, and I'm getting Russian and Chinese and all kinds of stuff. But they can't really do anything unless I approve them, I don't think.
Well, and what you're talking about is called hardening of websites. And websites, like anything else, can be hacked. Are you managing the updates for your website? You have a security certificate?
Say it again, please.
You have a security certificate associated
Yes.
with the website?
Yes.
And all your WordPress add-ons are up to date?
Yes.
Okay, then you've done a pretty good job on securing it. You shouldn't have too many problems. I'm not a web design security person. I will tell you that right now. I understand enough to know that you need to do the things, but I couldn't tell you hardening WordPress site.
Okay, I wrote down hardening websites, all of them.
Yeah, but that's, if you had a web company doing it, you want to ask them, what is their hardening process and policy? You need to make sure that you're keeping all of your apps up to date, especially if you have a sign-up app or a e-commerce app. Those are the most attacked.
The only thing that is insecure or could be a problem is if they swipe the directory. That's it. There's no shopping, everything goes to PayPal,
Okay.
so I'm not using, I could use Blue, but I'm not. And so far it's working fine. I cleaned it up pretty good, but.
Oh, yeah, and the problem is, it's all great till it's not. I'm working with a major client who did not have security on their main webpage, but they had security on their pay portal. But I said, well, what if somebody hacks your main webpage and changes where they go to the pay portal? He said, oh, I never thought about that. And so I said, they really need to have all of it encrypted and secure. Don't, people will get the front end because it's that link that matters. If I can take that link and send you someplace you're not going to go. So yes, we get paid over here, but if your customer never makes it over here, but they make it to here and it looks like it's over there, they're gonna spend money. So, it sounds like you've got the certificate, you've got the encryption, you're keeping everything up to date, so you're probably fine. But yeah, you want to definitely make sure you're doing that and looking at how to harden it. And who's your?
I've heard the term, but I haven't heard the term often, so that's good that you said it, because I've heard it. So.
Yeah, that's what the web nerds guys say, is basically making sure that you don't have ports you don't need open, you don't, and you can probably talk to whoever's hosting, unless it's a personal hosting. If it's a professional hosting place, you can ask them if they can help you harden. They usually will.
Okay.
If it's in your basement, then whatever you do. But yeah, and there's actually some scans you can do to see, I don't know them, but my team does, so I can find them, that you can actually scan websites and see if there's any open holes and how hard it is.
Yeah.
I'll see, try and remind me
That's a good idea.
to find that. I think some of them are free, I know some of them we paid for. We are not a auditing scanning company.
I understand.
We don't do penetration testing, we have third party. And I explain to people, again, you don't want the company that's doing penetration testing, is the company that's implementing the security, because, and then, even if you're doing it right, I should look for everything I'm scanning for. You want to find the things that I didn't think of. It's not malice on my part, it's to make sure you're as secure as possible. So never have your penetration company and your auditing company be the same company. Yes.
Okay.
So we had a pen test done at our company, and one of the risks that came back had to do with the firmware installed on an HP LaserJet. And then the more I think about it, it's like it has very, they're just as capable of attacking you through a laptop as they are a device. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, yeah, they could shoot a ton of checks out of this thing that could, then it's like with a cover letter that somebody might pick up, put in an envelope, and now I'm $10,000 to the good because I shot some checks out of a check printer. So yeah, and then like the Colonial Pipeline for the school, they attacked the AC system and the door lock system. I mean, at the end of the day, these are all just little computers sitting out there with IP addresses.
And so in the manufacturing world, industrial Internet of Things, you all heard the Internet of Things? We all heard about the refrigerator that was spying on families. Unfortunately, and I tell people this, Internet of Things and the industrial version of that is the Wild Wild West. The goal is to get them out. Security is an afterthought. And that's leading to a lot of problems, because you talked about that HP printer. Well, I had a client that their HP printer, they have one of those giant multi-printing things. That's just a computer. It has a Linux operating system. Somebody had hacked it, and they were using it to start attacking other machines in the building. We got another client got attacked. There's this thing called a time server. It makes sure that all your computers are on the same time. We were using the NIST server site. The Chinese were grabbing that transmission and piggyback and coming in, and then they were attacking target from my client's location. And we had all the other ports locked up, and we had the time port open, so they were jumping on the time port. and it was a little Linux machine, a home-built Linux machine by the client. And they took it over, and then they started broadcasting. They didn't care about my client. They wanted to shut down Target. This happened in December. It was from the Chinese. We tracked it back. We saw what IP address. We found out it was coming out of Beijing. The goal was to cause financial disruption. That's what I said. Ransomware is usually about making money. Other hackers are about causing disruption. If the Chinese government's involved, if the Russian government's involved, they can beat you, hurt you.
So Ken, how come there aren't any companies that I mean, this is not in the news that, hacking, Russian department stores or Russian gas stations or Russian, there's, it seems like there's, maybe, at least the Russians aren't complaining about it, at least in the news that we see, so I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of not talking. I can't remember the one ransomware that happened.
Is this a detente, like, we could hurt each other most with cybercrime and ransomware, so like, so unless,
Well, there's
if they get hurt as much as we do, then they're not gonna stop it.
Well, the Russian government doesn't care what happens to Russian companies like the US government cares what happens to the US companies. There is a different economic position in the two, because when we had, I can't remember CWW, but that went all through Europe and Africa. But we, for some reason, people don't talk about it when it hits the other countries nearly as much as when it hits us. I don't know why that is.
The Russian government also controls most of the internet in their own country, unlike the United States where we have free market rate, we have, pretty much a lot of individuality, do what we want to do with their own individual computers. And other countries like in China and dictatorships and places like that, the government actually has more control over their own internet providers. So there's only so much the hackers can get in before they get found and get destroyed by that central government. Here in the United States, because we have a free market system, it's anything that can go. So they go after us because we're more open as opposed to the other countries where we have lockdown. So like when you have Facebook protests in Hong Kong, protests in Russia about, Vladimir Putin and stuff, who controls the media, who controls the news that comes out of it? They control the government at the end of the day. So you're not gonna see as much of it, the hackers aren't gonna go after a government that's gonna know that they're gonna nuke them to their own, beds where they lay, so they're gonna go after another country like ourselves.
Yeah, there's a slew of reasons why we don't hear about it. And also, China's never gonna share. They're never gonna let it get out because they have an invulnerability image that they maintain. But remember, Snowden got kicked out of the country because he told the world about what we were doing on the hacking side. And all that hacking was against Russia. So we're doing it. We just aren't talking about it. So yeah, it is out there. Europe has a whole ton of ransomware attacks. They have the same level of problems we do, again, because they're open. China has more control, but I also think it hides a lot. The people I talk to, there's a lot of problems in China that you will never hear. I just did working internationally, and one of the things about China is you're not allowed to have encryption unless it's encryption they authorize.
Wow.
You can lock your door as long as you lock it with one of our locks if the principal has the key in the back.
And, I was working with a Fortune 500 company. My friend was their cybersecurity person, and this company really, really wanted to be in China. And China would not let them encrypt the information that was coming in. And he watched as the Chinese government was siphoning the information out of the place. And that's actually where they did a air gap. They started to send the information, I think it was to Vietnam, and then they drive it over covertly because it was illegal. You're not allowed to avoid the Chinese government. They would drive it over and take it to the plants.
That's why they're stealing intellectual property. That's why they're going after China right now, because none of these companies or anything that has technology wants to open it up in there because they're stealing all their intellectual property that way.
Yeah, they are. It is crazy. I wish I could tell you more because I don't even know. The people I have talked to basically says they've got lots of problems, but they hide everything. The Chinese and Russians do not tell you how bad things are in that country. And they have a vested interest in not letting you know. But I do know that lots of things are happening. Lots of financial problems are happening in China from ransomware attacks, which is another heresy. Yes.
Real simple one that maybe more than myself is curious about, and I kind of half know the answer, but I think it's a good question to ask, is what about the free apps like Avast and Malwarebytes? And if you take the free version, there's always an upgrade, and they bug you like crazy about the
Well,
upgrades.
yeah, nobody exists to give away free things.
Right.
There's no company. I'm going to exist here. I'm doing this because I'm hoping you guys will go tell everybody about my 10 hours, my 10 free companies and I make money. Avast is a good product for free. If you really are mildly concerned about your computer, it is the lowest level of protection you can get, but it does work for most people. But they want you to move up, and I would tell you to move up and spend a little money.
Right.
And what it comes down to is, what is your information worth? If it's not that important to you, enjoy the free stuff. If it's important to you, protect it. Spend the money to protect it. Because think about what is their value in keeping the free one running, except for at minimum level. If you're gonna do, now again, I don't know Macs, but PCs, you could use Windows Defender, which is actually stepping up, and that's included with Windows. If you're gonna do Avast free, you might as well do Windows Defender. It's about the same level. But spending a little money to get a better one is, well.
Do you have one that you recommend, Spike?
I've been using Malwarebytes,
Have you?
and I get the paid subscription.
Oh, yes. The paid versions are very good. I didn't, if I implied that they weren't good, I didn't mean to.
No.
Basically, the free version, just think about that. How much are you willing to work for free? I do a lot of things for free for companies I really like nonprofits, but otherwise I don't.
Well, a lot of times they make the money on ads too. I mean, they make the money on adverts.
Yeah, you don't make that much money on adverts for free, McAfee and Malwarebytes. You make money by convincing those people that do something free to stop taking it free and giving money. That's where they get their money.
Thanks, Ken. That was a great program.